Hey guys, and welcome back to the New Tennis Era podcast. My name's Anthony Hirsch. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Belgrade final between Denis Shapovalov and Medjedovic. I'm also going to be previewing the ATP Finals and some of the things I think could transpire this week, how I think some of the semis finals might play out, who I think might get to the final, who I think might win, and certain possibilities with the ATP Finals. And yeah, there are a few things to get over this week, so without further ado, let's get into it. Please don't forget to subscribe to QualityShot Tennis if you haven't already, and please don't forget to like the video as well if you are if you're enjoying it, and please don't forget to subscribe if you're new. So on to the Belgrade final. Denis Shapovalov, after a long wait, grabbed his second title in Belgrade. His first title was in Stockholm like 3 years ago. He's a player that used to be top 10, a player that so many people were excited about for a long time, and then for the last few years just hasn't found his game at all. This week he found his game. Playing amazing, serving incredibly impressively. His serve was unbelievable. I mean, in the match he won 41 out of 54 total serve points. 41 out of 54, making 63% first serves in. He only hit just like a few double faults, even though he was smashing second serves. He was hitting service winners off of second serves, and Medjedovic, even though he can hit the ball very clean, very aggressive player, can hit the ball in the center of the strings even while playing very risky or aggressive shots, but he just didn't have enough on the return. And Shapo had better rally tolerance and patience and smarts and really outlasted him in a lot of long rallies. I felt like we flipped. I felt like it was Shapo who was playing the more percentage smart tennis, you know, pulling Medjedovic, you know, to using different angles to pull him out wide and stuff. I felt like Medjedovic was playing more like the old Shapo, where he was pulling the cord too early. And I also felt like Medjedovic was having trouble hitting his backhand cross court and making a good angle with it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but definitely he was not returning as well as he would have wanted to. Those are some things I wanted to say. But, I mean, set one, they were both playing really well. It only came down to a break at 4-4, but Medjedovic was almost unplayable in set one. It was a high-level match. It came down to one break point, but in the first set, Medjedovic made 89% first serves in, and that's insane. And that's 10 percentage points higher than Shapovalov was, who was at 79%. They together made a remarkable 46 out of 55 first serves in the first set. That's as high as you'll see that number. But Shapo played great in this tournament. He won 10 sets in a row to win the title. The only set he lost was the very first set he played in the tournament against Martin Fucsovics in the first round. But yeah, Shapovalov with a new coach, Janko Tipsarevic, in the box, a very talented, underrated kind of player that people don't really talk about, but very talented guy who had a lot of fire, a lot of passion, and I think like he's a great fit for Shapo and you know, kind of adding to his game. And Tipsarevic could hit some special shots. He could hit some good forehands. I feel like he's already helping Shapo a lot. But yeah, it was the second serve. The second serve for Shapo was incredibly good in this match. I'm going to go over some key moments in a little bit as well. Shapo also more used to the moment. Having been in top 10, having been on tour longer, having been in a Masters final. This was his 7th final overall, plus a Davis Cup final. He's more used to the moment. Medjedovic, this was his first final. And yeah, like I said, in the first set, Medjedovic played very well, but some of the stats in the first set went way down for the second set. 71% first serve points won in the first set went down to 59. 67% second serve points won went to 50. And yeah, 89% first serves in went to 65. So first set, Medjedovic was definitely better than he was in the second set, where he started the second set with a getting broken to love. And getting broken to love with a double fault. But I'll get to that. I'm going to go over some key moments of this matchup, talk about a little bit about what happened and how Shapo did it. I'm hoping that this Shapo is here to stay. But yeah, here's some key moments in the match and some things that I want to talk about in regards to the match. So at 4-3, 4-3 down, Shapo just hits 2 horrific volleys, right? I want to start with this. Shapo hits 2 horrific volleys, including one of the worst shots of the year, probably, at 15-all. And I say that because the way he recouped and didn't get too frustrated and just played smart was amazing. his serve comes to the rescue. 3 big first serves from 3-4, 15-30. And also his forehand is just so good. And he's just not letting Medjedovic dictate, which he's used to doing, because Shapo is playing so aggressively himself. Shapo was hitting forehands deep the whole match, and it was tough. He was playing aggressive, but he was playing within himself and building the points out smarter. He wasn't going for ridiculous shots, just conservative aggression, so just consistent but aggressive, right? Playing within himself. 4-4, important game in the first set. Hamad starts with 2 aces out wide and T. He's even in the 30 love point, where to this point Hamad has played an amazing match, even in control, pulling Shapo way out wide, attacking his forehand. Shapo hits the net cord, and then Hamad Medjedovic hits his backhand long. His backhand is definitely weaker than his forehand. Medjedovic has a very good forehand, a very good serve. He's a good aggressive player, but his backhand is not it. A little too forceful with Medjedovic, that backhand, which is often a problem, or it was for Shapo, not this week. And the game just completely gets away from him quickly. Shapo hits this weird shank drop shot return, which Medjedovic didn't even run to. Medjedovic then hit a drop shot, missed in the net off a +1, and then a +1 forehand miss wide. The weird thing about this is Medjedovic only made first serves in. But Shapo was getting so much better on return than Medjedovic. He was very good on return in this match. Shapo served slightly better, but Medjedovic was serving very well, and Shapo was making returns back. That is something Medjedovic was just not able to do against Shapo's serve, who was also serving very smartly, and I'll get to that. But Shapo was getting lots of serves back. Every serve in this game was a first serve, and he still got broken. At break point, the serve could have been a winner, but Shapo just hanging in tough, clearly wanting this title very badly, by the way, which you saw the celebration afterwards as well. But Shapo gets it back, and Medjedovic with a poor forehand error out. So Shapo very solid, but Medjedovic with a poor game there from up 30 love. He should have won that 30 love point too, got a little bit unlucky with the net cord, and then missed an easy forehand after that as well. Medjedovic struggles when in defensive position. At 5-4, at 5-4 he hits a great backhand return, his best of the match. He arguably somewhat causes Shapo to double fault twice in the next game. But then he gets to 15-40. So Shapo double faults twice in a row, which you can always avoid yourself double faulting twice in a row, but Hamad Medjedovic hit such a good return that I felt like Shapo, that kind of put the fear factor in. But then at 15-40, 2 break points, he misses 2 backhand defensive low returns right into the net. Just nothing on them. I mean, these are 2 balls he very easily could have at least gotten back into play, and Shapo was getting these kinds of serves back in play. Medjedovic just unable to return, and especially on the backhand side, which Shapo was really taking advantage of. And set point again, and again, he misses another backhand return, which is really weird because it looked like Medjedovic was guessing the wrong way, and Shapo went out wide, which was, I think, an ace. But I don't know why he was guessing that way. Every ad side serve that Shapo hit in this game was an out wide serve to the backhand. So Medjedovic is struggling on the return and guessing Shapo's serve. Shapo mixing it up brilliantly, but yeah, it's just not a great set tense from Medjedovic. Just a few more things to mention here. 0-0 second set. You usually don't want to mention 0-0 game. It's not the most key game, but Shapo broke here at love. Some really impressive forehands from really hard positions in the court, and then really great athleticism. Shapo defending forehand, hitting it deep. But then a nervy double from Medjedovic gave the game away. And the problem with Medjedovic is he kept going to the forehand of Shapo and hitting just wayward, aggressive shots when they came back, right? Hamad was basically like old Shapo in this match, I felt like. And he was struggling with his backhand cross court. So Shapo was really able to run around his backhand and hit forehands, and Hamad couldn't hurt him to hit the other way because he lacked the backhand. Shapo, in multiple points, even this first game where he broke, was running around the backhand as far as he could. He was even in the doubles alley at certain points and attacking forehands, especially to Medjedovic's backhand. And Medjedovic just couldn't hit the backhand cross court enough to really take advantage. So at 3-2, love 15, kind of a chance for Medjedovic. He has a chance in this rally, kind of the chance for Medjedovic to break back. He's in a rally on Shapo's serve. He should be the one dictating. And Shapo hitting from the doubles alley on the deuce side, hitting his lefty forehands and just controlling the court. And Medjedovic unable to go cross court because he's using his backhand. And Hamad hits his first backhand, tries to go cross court, hits it central and short, and then he hits the next on a net cord, and then it goes wide. He also keeps hitting let cords throughout this match, which is unlucky. And Shapo just outlasting him. Shapo wins this 14-shot rally, just outlasting him, hitting good depth, and serving amazing. But and then 4-3, 30 all, good rally. This is kind of the last key moment of the match, I would say. This is when you still felt like Medjedovic could get the break back. He's on 30 all, at 30 all in a Shapo service game. But for the reasons that I've just listed with the backhand cross court, Shapo playing smart, opening up the court nicely with angles with his forehand, and Medjedovic just misses a backhand cross court long. So he ends up being the one more behind the baseline. He's not dictating. Shapo's playing deep in the court, and he loves the patterns that he's finding, because Medjedovic struggles so much with the backhand cross court, and that actually became a big factor in this match. So Shapo ended up winning the title with a hold to love, some big serves. Crazy how well Shapo served. His forehand was on. He played smart. He played within himself. And shot selection was very good this week. Big props to Shapo. He is somebody to watch for next year. I hope he keeps up this level. I hope this isn't a one and done. I really hope it's not a one and done. Reminds me of Humbert winning the last tournament of the year last year, and maybe it was in Metz. Hard-hitting lefty, and Humbert had a good season this year. Hopefully the same for Shapo. So let's see what all happens, but yeah, good stuff from Shapo there to pick up the title on Belgrade, and hopefully that was a good rundown of things that kind of went down. And now I want to move on to the ATP Finals before going to power rankings, etc., and the other stuff. So what's happened so far is we've had a lot of straight sets matches. Some weird results. Some not so weird. Sinner beating Demonor 6-3, 6-4. He played insane. Sinner played so good. It just comes so easy. Even if he's not playing his best, he's playing insane, right? So good stuff from Yannick. And I feel like coming into the tournament, I just feel like he's a big favorite. And I feel like that's pretty obvious. But there are some scenarios where I can imagine something else happening. There are a few, and I want to talk about it. The other one that's not that surprising is Zverev won over Rublev. Also a really, really great performance, 6-4, 6-4. The two that were surprising, or you could say were surprising, Fritz took out Medvedev. Medvedev with a complete meltdown. It's a very high-level first set. 4-5, 30-15. Then Medvedev just hits 3 consecutive double faults in about less than half a minute. Like, wild. And then he just loses it. He starts losing it at the end of the match. And yeah, he's had a long season. He keeps losing heartbreaking finals after finals, and he keeps complaining about the balls, and there's a lot of built up stuff. His results have been worse than ever. He has to deal with Sinner and Alcaraz now, even though Djokovic is out, and he's not enjoying playing tennis. It's only going to get harder from here on out with his defensive game style. Look at Michael Chang when he turned 30 years old. It's only going to get harder. There's a lot of things that could piss Medvedev off just about now in tennis, and the main thing is he's just not winning a whole lot of matches or tournaments. He hasn't won a tournament since Rome. Imagine if that's the last tournament he wins. I don't think so. It's not going to be, but it's crazy. But yeah, Medvedev just completely lost it. Started throwing his racket in the air a bunch of times, started returning with showing as if he was going to return with the grip the racket. I like this moment because it shows that even for like the top 8 in the world, one of the biggest tournaments in the world, tennis can be such a mentally horrific game to play. Like, it can drive you nuts, and you saw that here. And Fritz played really well. Fritz played really, really well. And but Medvedev just completely has lost the plot. It's the only way to put it. And then the big one that I want to go a little bit more in depth in before I talk about just how I think this tournament might play out is Alcaraz versus Ruud. Yeah, Ruud. Well, Alcaraz was sick. So, asterisk with Alcaraz. Okay. Sometimes there's an asterisk. This one is an asterisk. But no, it's an asterisk, but I don't want to take away from what this means for Ruud and how great of a win it is for Ruud. He said afterwards, one of the best wins of the season, no doubt. A sick Alcaraz, still very difficult to beat. They had some great points. Ruud did nearly everything right. He was so solid. And Ruud saving a ton of break points early on, fighting well. Alcaraz had his chances. Ruud held for 4-1 after saving, I think, like 5 break points. Alcaraz went 0 for 4 on break points. For whatever reason, Ruud just so good at the ATP Finals. So many errors from Alcaraz, just from every shot. His forehand completely off. I think he needs to figure out the forehand on indoor hard courts in general. On fast hard courts like indoor hard court. I don't think he's figured out the forehand on a low bouncing court that goes as quick as indoors. Like, I just don't think he's figured it out. The timing of it, how to play his game in a very effective way. I mean, he shoots for a big ceiling. I think on indoors, he just starts hitting errors. When usually he'd be building out the points and hitting winners, he's rushed. He doesn't know exactly what to do, so he forces himself to rush. And he rushes himself rather than his opponents, you know? By hitting big shots, he hits errors. So 25 winners, 34 errors for Alcaraz. Once again, he was sick, so it was just tough. But I don't know what it is, why Casper picks it up so much at the ATP Finals, but maybe he's just not as tired from grass season and hard court season as some of the other players usually. But just a big step up from Casper during the ATP Finals. In the second set, Alcaraz started playing pretty well, actually. He went to 5-2, if you're watching, you remember. He went to 5-2, and he was up 5-2. It looked like we were going 3 all day. In fact, it was 5-2, 30-15. Less unforced errors. He was much better on the return of serve. And Carlos and Casper just started playing a bit worse. And Ruud definitely struggled more on the return of serve as well. So they pretty much switched positions. Ruud was hitting a little bit more errors. And they kind of switched to his returning serves very well. Carlos also started serving better, but Ruud's return was really not doing him very well. There's a crucial point at 5-2, 30 all. Ruud's defense just really good in this match in general. Alcaraz had this kind of easy forehand for a winner, hits it out into the net. And then Ruud's defense, that's at 30-15, and then Ruud's defense crazy at the 30 all point, picking 2 shots up right from the baseline, one for a lob that goes way up high to the other baseline on the other side of the court, and then Carlos hits this huge forehand attacking Casper's backhand, and Casper. Ruud just runs around his backhand and somehow manages to hit a forehand and a very good one deep in the court. Even though he decides last minute to run around his backhand, and Carlos just hit a huge forehand to his backhand. But I think Carlos is not the fastest guy on tour, Alcaraz. I think often people say he's the fastest. Actually, Casper Ruud running around his backhand, I think, is the fastest guy on tour. He does not want to strike a backhand. It's crazy. Like, I think that's the fastest guy on tour. He has such good footwork, and yeah, good stuff. A very talented guy, very talented player, Ruud. Yeah, I like this matchup. Carlos versus Ruud reminds me of Andy Murray versus Roger Federer. Obviously, you can take the level slightly lower. They're not on that level yet, but Casper is certainly not Andy Murray, but. And Carlos is not Federer, to be clear. But anyway, the point is that to me, Casper and Murray often remind me of each other in a lot of ways. They're both very talented players that are very creative on the court, but ultimately use their talent to be extremely effective and high percentage. But they hit a lot of shots that other players won't hit. They're very high IQ, and they're pretty good movers. And I don't know, the way they work the court, particularly with their forehand, they both remind me a lot of each other. Ruud has an extremely good lob as well. There's a lot of things that remind me of each other. But anyway, Casper raised his level and broke at 5-3 with help of good backhands, a backhand lob included. Ruud breaks, and Ruud needs that as his backhand is not that great, and Carlos has been very solid recently at times, but Carlos is making backhand errors and Ruud is hitting his backhand very well. And then a backhand return winner gives him the second break at 5-5. But the forehand is so bad from Carlos. He hits a crucial one long at 30 all at 5-5. And yeah, it's just the forehand on fast indoor hard courts when Carlos is not there. And today was a bad day. I really think it was clear that Carlos was sick. Even watching it, you could tell that something was off. So I don't want to say that much that this defines Carlos right now or his tournament or anything, because there's a big asterisk with his health. But yeah, I mean, listen, Ruud with a good start. He's got a good start in sets. He's 2-0 over Alcaraz, which was always going to be a tough match. And also 6-1, 7-5. That's only losing 6 games in the match. So very good if it comes down to tiebreakers, for example, as well, for who gets first place, second place. So here's my scenarios. For me, before the tournament started, I picked Sinner to win. I still feel like Sinner will win. He played outrageous against de Minaur, even though he loves playing de Minaur. But here's the scenarios that I could see. First, here's the scenario that I think is gonna happen if I was to make a bet. And this is the scenario that I've had even since before the tournament started. I have Sinner defeating Fritz in the final, a rematch of the US Open. Here's the reason why. Fritz can beat Zverev. Fritz will likely be behind Sinner in his group, which means he will be second place if he qualifies. Now that he's beaten Medvedev, it especially seems likely he will qualify. Fritz has beaten Zverev all the last 3 times they've played. Zverev, if he finishes first, he will take on Ruud. If Zverev finishes first in his group, he'll take on, not Ruud, he'll take on Fritz in the semis. And I think Fritz can beat Zverev. Now, can Fritz beat Sinner? I don't know. Right? We'll actually see that in a round-robin match soon. But Fritz, I don't think will beat Sinner. But that is a possibility for me. And then the other scenario that I want to talk about is, well, first of all, I can basically only see Zverev beating Sinner, realistically. Something else might happen, but that's really the only scenario that I could really see happening. If Ruud wins the group, if Casper Ruud wins his group, which would be amazing, then I think he has a chance of winning the whole tournament. I don't think that will happen, but if he keeps up that level, I think it could, but not if he has to play Sinner. I don't think Casper will beat Sinner on these courts. Zverev has to lose at least one of his next 2 to Ruud and to Alcaraz. So something like that may happen. But if it does, Ruud already has a pretty decent shot of winning the group. So I just want to point that out. And Ruud or Carlos, they could beat Zverev, particularly Casper could beat Zverev the way that Alcaraz was looking today, although he was not healthy, but that doesn't mean that he will be healthy later in the week. So those are some scenarios I want to talk about. And if, the reason I point that out, if Ruud wins the group, then Zverev is number 2 and Sinner is number 1. Zverev and Sinner play in the semis. Zverev is the guy who I feel like at least can beat Sinner. And then if Zverev beats Sinner, right? If Zverev beats Sinner, then it could be Zverev versus Ruud, potentially, in the final. And it's not impossible that Ruud wins, in my opinion. If he's already high enough of a level to get to the final, I think that's not out of question, right? Especially Zverev after beating Sinner. Although Zverev has beaten Djokovic and then beaten Medvedev to win the title before here. So anyway, those are some things I want to talk about. The way I think it's going to play out, I have Sinner over Fritz in the final. We'll see if that ends up happening. Power rankings. Number 1, Jannik Sinner for the 5th week at the number 1 spot. 5th week in a row. Number 2, Alex Zverev. Neither of those guys moving whatsoever. Number 3, I've got Novak Djokovic, also not moving. Only Zverev and Sinner have played 1 match. And they both won it with a fantastic performance. So they hold the top 2 spots. Djokovic hasn't played yet. Number 4, Taylor Fritz. He climbs back up to number 4. He climbed down 3 spots. He's back up 3 spots this week. Great performance against Medvedev. He likely is the 4th most informed player in the world right now. Number 5 is, or actually it might be 5th. But number 5 is Alcaraz, who goes down 2 spots because of the performance against Zverev. But we'll see. I still chalk it up to health. So it's for now he's number 5, but we'll see how he keeps performing. Also, he hasn't been having great losses recently. He's had some weird losses. For example, he's only lost 12 matches in his career where he's lost a bagel or a breadstick. 7 out of those 12 matches that he's lost in his career came against Medvedev, Zverev, and Sinner. 3 against Sinner, 2 against Zverev, and 2 against Medvedev. Now, he's lost 3 matches in the last 2 months of that kind against other players that some would say are random. Botic van de Zandschulp, Hugo Humbert, and now Casper Ruud. Ruud's not really random, but anyway, that's worrying. That's worrying. Carlos is not having good losses recently. Also lost to Mahac in Shanghai. He's not been having great losses. Mahac played insane, but still. So a little bit worrying for Alcaraz. That's why he's down to number 5. But still, he could have been lower, but I don't think there's anybody under him that I would put above him. Number 6 is Karin Khachanov. Didn't play this week. Number 7 is Jack Draper. Didn't play this week. Number 8 is Humbert. Same thing. Number 9 is Holger Rune. And number 10 is Alex de Minaur, who lost to Sinner, but Sinner played insane. It's fine. That is my top 10. I was so very close with putting Shapovalov at the 10th spot, but I didn't feel it was quite fair yet. There's so many guys right outside that top 10, like Shapovalov, Tommy Paul, Dimitrov, Artur Fils, and Pechi Pericard, who, listen, if they prove it to me at the start of next year that they can keep up some of their form, they will get right back in the power rankings. But as of right now, it's Sinner, Zverev, Djokovic, Fritz, Alcaraz, Karin Khachanov, Jack Draper, Hugo Humbert, Holger Rune, Alex de Minaur is my top 10 of the power rankings. Player of the week, Denis Shapovalov. How good is it to have a talent like this back winning? I hope, for the sake of tennis, that he can keep that up, because when he's on, he is fun to watch. He is so fun to watch. I'm currently making a ranking of entertainment value, trying to be pretty objective about it, how I think most people would view the entertainment value of players on tour. And Shapovalov, he ranks very high for entertainment value. Shapovalov is such a entertaining player to watch, and he was such a good youngster. It's good to see him back in the mix. I hope that he can keep this up. I hope Felix follows suit as well, but tennis would be much better off with Shapo in the mix come next year. And he's only 25, which shows how long he's been around, yet he came in at 17 years old. Similar to Felix as well, but I think he's 25. Yeah, he's literally 25, born in 1999. That's almost mind-blowing to me that Denis Shapovalov was born in 1999. But anyway, match of the week, I have Zverev versus Medjedovic. Very good final. Semi-final in Belgrade. Third set tiebreaker. Went down to the wire. Huge win for Medjedovic, getting to his first ATP final. Zverev also putting himself back into the mix. I believe they were both wild cards. This was at their home tournament, so very exciting match all around. Shot of the week, I give it to Corentin Moutet with an underarm serve, then a very fun point against Cameron Norrie, sliding on hard courts, hitting great passes. Following a very good underarm serve, I'm all in for a guy like Moutet. I think it's great. I think we need fun games like Moutet. I think we need fun personalities. Moutet's got all of that. I think it's great. I think that's what we need in tennis. I just think all of it's great. We need more of that. I even look at Zhang on the women's side, right? And she seems like, I don't know. It's a personality thing. She has such a great personality in the game that we just haven't seen for a while, and I just think we need more of that. We need more variety. We need something in the mix. We need a bit of fun. It's all pretty tame and innocent, but we need underarm serves. We need people who speak their minds. We need this kind of stuff. We need that's what makes tennis more fun and what will appeal to the masses. And I think underarm serve is a good play. I think it's a drop shot serve. I think that makes sense. We use drop shots. Why not drop shot serve? Also, by the way, shout out to Alex Michelsen, who did something that I've never seen before, which is hit a forehand from the baseline. There's a reason you don't see that, because an underarm serve makes way more sense. It's a much better contrast to your regular hard serves that you're hitting, or even topspin kick serves that you're hitting. So the underarm serve as a slice makes way more sense usually than a topspin forehand, which is what Michelsen hit the underarm serve as. And also, your opponent is usually standing really far back for the serve. They're not expecting it. It's a good contrast to the regular serve. But Michelsen tried to switch it up. But it was weird because Mickelson was injured, so he was hitting, I guess he was hitting underarm serves anyway, and then he was hitting topspin forehand underarms to switch up from the regular slice underarms. It was very weird, but I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see players trying new stuff, even though that's never going to take on as a mainstream standard thing, but it was fun to see. Other things going on to culture, Nishikori very close to being back in the top 100 in the world. He wins a challenger tournament. I want to give a shout out to Kei Nishikori. I think the whole tennis world will cheer as if Nishikori finally won a slam once he gets back to the top 100. Just one of the most fun players to watch. And this is what I want to end off the culture segment of the podcast talking about. I want to talk about the Masters. There's been a lot of conversation about Masters events recently. People often, the conversation, especially in the zeitgeist of the general public, is about Grand Slams. When we talk about tennis, people pay attention to the slams, right? That's where people pay the most attention. I think that there's been a huge push to try to see why that is and to try to make Masters events pop out more and be better and appeal more to the masses. The first step in that seems to have been make them 2 weeks and more similar to Grand Slams and span a longer period of time. People will have more of a chance to find out about it, tune in, etc. But they are so... They go on for a long time. They're a bit draining, the 2-week Masters. They're a bit draining. Any fan, even the most hardcore fan, will tune out at some point. You get, the first few days are filled with matches. I've talked about 2-week Masters. This isn't just about 2-week Masters, but I just want to reiterate a couple points. The first few days are filled with matches on big courts that aren't usually the courts you see, matches you see on the big courts, but even more importantly, at the start of the second week, you start just having like 2 matches at a time. It's very weird, and it feels so slow. And also, it's causing a lot of injuries for players that have to keep up a high intensity. It's getting rid of tournaments like 250s and 500s that are great tournaments. And it just seems like we're definitely heading to a place where they're going to try to split the tour in two, where the top 100 players or even top 50, 60 play the Masters and the Slams, etc. And then there's another separate tour that plays the lower tournaments, and then after a year ends, they go to the top, they go to the next tour. But I think what makes tennis fun is that it's so global. You have these great historic events. I don't think we need to change tennis from what it is. I think that would be a dangerous thing. I don't think we need like a 2 different tours type of thing. The WTA Finals happened in Saudi Arabia. There was always a talk about Saudi Arabia starting a new tour. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but obviously Saudi Arabia, the people behind that change, they have a lot of money. You know, we saw with the 16 Slam. They have a lot of money, and you know, they're trying to get more involved with tennis, and it feels like that's just inevitable almost at this point. And there's talk about a Masters 1000 that could be happening in Saudi Arabia. So there's a lot of talks about different Masters events and kind of what's the best thing to go from here with Masters. My opinion is, first and foremost, is that they should be 1 week tournaments outside of potentially Indian Wells and maybe Miami as well. If we had a Masters in Saudi Arabia, it seems like it would be another one that happens on a hard court, an outdoor hard court, which would make it so that there are 7 of the 10 Masters events would be played on hard court, 0 on grass, 3 on clay. Which would be, it would look like what the WTA season is looking like at the moment. And I just don't think that that's the best way to go about it. If there is going to be Masters in Saudi Arabia, I hope that they play it on different surface at least. I had an idea for how I would work the schedule for Masters. And this isn't to say that this is the right way. This isn't the right schedule. And there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of complex parts. Most particularly players traveling all across the world and making it logistically make sense. For the players where it's realistic and it would, once again, not cause more injuries than already happening. But for me, I would make all the Masters 1 week, maybe outside of Miami and Indian Wells. But what I would actually do is, at this point, I would consider taking away the Miami event at this point, if it doesn't change from how it's been the last few years. Because for me, I haven't been that keen on the event since it moved from Key Biscayne. I think in the new stadium, it hasn't been that great, honestly, in the Hard Rock Stadium. I haven't liked the way that the courts have been or anything like that. And to me, I would consider maybe moving the Miami event over to a South American tournament, which is what Andy Murray was talking about earlier in the year, to South American clay. And then I would do that as a potential switch. And these are just brainstorming ideas. I would do that as a potential switch from Miami to a South American tournament. That way there's 4 tournaments on clay. And then that takes away one of the hard courts. So that's 4 outdoor hard court. I would keep a tournament on indoors because we only have 1 Masters on indoors, but we already have 2 big events in Paris. I would consider, at least, it could stay in Paris, but I would consider moving the Paris Masters to a different indoor spot, potentially to a continent that doesn't see a lot of tennis anyway. Potentially a place like a continent like Africa or something like that, where there's tennis. What I meant to say is where there's not a whole lot of professional tennis tournaments being held. That would be a great thing. To a place where there isn't a whole lot of tennis and figuring out the logistics of that, but keeping it on an indoor hard court, and then also adding a grass Masters. So that would be 10 Masters altogether, but they would be 1-week events. It would be 4 outdoor hard court. It would be 4 clay courts, and it would be 1 outdoor hard court, 1 grass. I think this would make it very even across the whole season. I think changing the Masters back to 1 week would be the right thing to do as well. The grass Masters would make the season much less disjointed. It would give players a great practice for Wimbledon and actually have a chance to play well against the players that have been playing on grass for a long time and actually get some practice ahead of Wimbledon. Like, it just makes no sense that we don't have grass. Also, grass is a great surface. We just deserve to see more of it, right? And to see it, to have more than one champion of a big grass court title in a year. And that would be great. South America holding a Masters would be great. I personally just haven't liked Miami, but please, that much recently. But if they change it or et cetera, I'd be okay with it. My main thing is I'm not that keen on changing everything. I think tennis is great as it is. We need to, keep going with the best that it has. I'm not like we should rework the entire tennis thing, but there's changes being made anyway. I think that some of those changes would be for the best if we are going to change things around. Let me know what your ideal schedule for Masters 1000s would be, what you think of some of those ideas, and let's have a conversation, right? Let's have a conversation about what Masters should be, because right now it is so up in the air. This is exactly when we should be having this conversation. So let me know your thoughts on that schedule. Let me know what you think the schedule ought to be, and just general ideas that you have about Masters 1000s, whether you like the 2-week events actually, or whether you think they should be 1 week, or if you like Miami, which is perfectly fine too. But yeah, let me know, and yeah, thank you guys for joining in. Please don't forget to like the video if you've enjoyed it. Please don't forget to subscribe. It's been Anthony Hirsch here with QualityShot Tennis, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week for ATP Finals review.